Welcome to Simple Endurance Coaching's Everyday Cyclist and Runners Guide to Performance video podcast. I'm Paul Werlowski, head coach and owner of Simple Endurance Coaching. And each week we talk about one thing that seems to be working for everyday cyclists and runners for their performance, health, and fitness. Subscribe to the podcast below and sign up on the website www.simpleendurancecoaching.com for a free core strength and stability video. Here's this week's podcast. One of the biggest challenges in cyclocross racing is finding the right balance between peaking towards the end of the season and maintaining a consistent performance throughout the entire series. For example, in Wisconsin, we have 13 races, so you can try and win the overall series, or you can try to peak for the end of the season championships. Doing both is hard and requires careful planning and execution of that training plan. To achieve a peak performance toward the end of the season, athletes typically employ a strategy known as peaking. This involves gradually increasing the volume and intensity of training, followed by a tapering phase in which the workload decreases, allowing the body to recover and super compensate. This strategic approach ensures that athletes are in top form when it matters most. However, solely focusing on end-of-the-year peak can come at the cost of overall performance throughout the season. Athletes who don't focus on the importance of consistent training may struggle to maintain form during the early races or experience burnout before the crucial end-of-the-season events. Cross is a unique sport that presents its own set of challenges when it comes to improving fitness during the season. One of the main reasons for this is the demanding nature of cross races themselves. Unlike road or mountain biking, where you can settle into a steady rhythm, even in mountain biking, cross requires constant bursts of power as you navigate the technical terrain, steep climbs, barriers, corners. The intensity level in a cross race is incredibly high from start to finish. That means that your body needs to be prepared for repeated efforts at near maximum output. It's not just about endurance. It's about being able to sustain that high power output while maintaining control and precision on challenging surfaces. Another factor that makes cross training particularly challenging is the unpredictable weather conditions. Cross races often take place in muddy and slippery conditions, adding an extra layer of difficulty to each race. That means that your training needs to include specific drills and exercises that mimic these conditions so that you can build the necessary skills and strength required to handle them effectively. Additionally, with a packed race schedule throughout the season, it can be tempting to focus solely on racing without allowing enough time for proper recovery and adaptation between the events. Overtraining becomes a real risk if you don't carefully plan your training schedule. The combination of intense efforts, technical demands, unpredictable terrain, and unpredictable weather conditions make cross a hard sport to improve fitness during the season. However, by incorporating some periodization into your training plan and addressing these specific challenges head on, you can maximize your potential as a master cyclist over 50 in this exciting, most fun ever discipline of cyclocross. If you're serious about improving your performance in cross, then periodization is the key concept for your season. Periodization refers to the strategic planning and organization of your training throughout the season. This approach involves dividing your training into distinct phases or periods, each with specific goals and focuses. So one reason that periodization is important in cross is that it helps prevent overtraining and burnout. Cross is that intense sport that we talked about, and demanding and physically and mentally. It's a real thing to have cross hangover on Mondays, but without good planning, it's easy to fall into the trap of pushing yourself too hard without allowing for adequate recovery time, especially if you're older. And this doesn't even account for trying to improve your form throughout the season. So another benefit of periodization is that it allows for targeted improvement in different aspects of your fitness. You might focus on building strength or increasing endurance during certain periods, while at other times you may prioritize speed or technical skills. By structuring your training around these different phases, you give yourself the best chance at reaching peak performance when it matters most during your race season and target races. It also ensures that you are continuously challenging yourself without risking injury or stagnation. If your goal is to win the state championships and master cyclocross, then periodization becomes even more crucial in your training plan. To be successful at this level of competition, you need to peak at the end of the season, maybe foregoing success in early season events. First and foremost, it's important to understand that winning the state championship or even doing well requires a long-term approach. You can't expect to achieve peak performance overnight. This is where periodization comes into play. Periodizing your season allows you to strategically divide your training into those phases, each with its own focus and goals, and then carefully planning when and how intensively you train. You can maximize your fitness gains leading up to that state championship or a race. In the early off-season phase, as I always say, you need to build a solid aerobic base through longer endurance rides. As you progress closer to race day, intensity increases with interval workouts focused on developing speed and power. Another key aspect of training for the state championships is incorporating race-specific skills, even course-specific skills and tactics into your workouts. This includes practicing dismounts, remounts, cornering techniques, and handling obstacles like barriers or stairs, all essential elements of cyclocross racing. When designing training plans for master cyclocross racers over 50, I consider several different factors. Here are some key principles to keep in mind. Number one, emphasize recovery. As we age, recovery becomes increasingly important. Be mindful of incorporating adequate rest and active recovery into your training plan. This is going to help prevent overuse, injuries, and allow your body to adapt to the demands of training and racing. Number two, prioritize strength training. With age, maintaining muscle mass and strength becomes essential. Include regular strength training sessions to improve overall power output and prevent age-related muscle loss. Focus on exercises that target specific muscle groups used in cross, such as legs, core, and upper body. Number three, build endurance. Master cyclocross often benefit from longer, sustained efforts to build endurance. Incorporate longer training rides to improve cardiovascular fitness and stamina. Endurance rides should be performed at a moderate intensity to avoid excessive fatigue. And number four, work on your technical skills. Cross requires solid technical skills, particularly navigating challenging terrain, dismounting, remounting, and shouldering the bike, as well as cornering. Dedicate specific training sessions to honing these skills, focusing on technique rather than intensity. And number five, include periods of intensity to improve speed and power, and incorporate intervals and high-intensity workouts into your training plan. These efforts should be challenging, but tailored to your individual fitness level and recovery focus. What if I'm training to win the season-long series, but this is a whole different ballgame? Winning a single race or doing well in a single race is one thing, but winning or doing well in the series requires consistent performance and strategic planning. To come out on top in the season-long series, you need to focus not only on your fitness level, but also on pacing yourself throughout the entire season. It's about finding a balance between pushing hard enough to stay competitive in each individual race, while allowing for recovery and burnout. Periodization becomes even more crucial when aiming for success in a long-term competition like this. You'll want to structure your training so that you maintain a decent level of fitness all season long, with breaks whenever you can to rebuild your fitness when you're able to. This means carefully managing your training load, intensity, and recovery periods. In addition to physical preparation, mental fortitude plays a significant role in winning a season-long series. Staying motivated and focused over an extended period can be challenging, especially when faced with setbacks or maybe a disappointing result. Developing strategies to cope with these challenges will help keep you on track towards achieving your goals. Don't forget about other factors that can impact your overall performance throughout the series. Factors such as nutrition, bike maintenance, equipment selection, and race tactics all play their part in determining success. Research has shown that periodization is highly effective in improving athletic performance in various sports, including cycling. By progressively overloading the body and allowing then for adequate recovery, periodization prevents stagnation and promotes continuous improvement. You push, then recover. Push, recover. It helps athletes adapt to increasing demands of the sport and helps you avoid overtraining. Studies have shown that structured training plans with varying intensity and volume lead to greater gains in fitness compared to constant training load. By strategically manipulating these variables throughout the season, athletes can optimize their progress while minimizing the risk of burnout or injury, but it takes care. Additionally, research has shown that periodized training can enhance physiological markers such as VO2 max, lactate threshold, and power output. These improvements translate directly into better performance on race day. So by targeting these individual specific systems during different phases of training, such as focusing on aerobic conditioning early on and then gradually introduce higher intensity efforts, cyclists can develop well-rounded fitness. That's what you need for cross racing. It's important to note that no single approach works for everyone when it comes to periodization in Masters Cross. Each athlete has a unique strength and unique weaknesses and goals that need to be considered when designing a personalized training plan. That's where a coach can come in handy. That's where it's recommended with an experienced coach, especially with a cyclocross coach who understands the demands of cross racing and the principles of effective periodization. Remember, please, the importance of rest and recovery and listening to your body. Thanks for watching this edition of the Simple Endurance Coaching video podcast, the Everyday Cyclists and Runners Guide to Performance. Each week, we dive into what's working or what seems to be working in endurance sports training for everyday cyclists and runners. Find the full article on my blog linked below in the notes and get a free core strength and stability training video when you opt in to receive my weekly blog post about what works in endurance sports. Or, better yet, sign up for a virtual coffee so we can talk about your goals, your adventures, ask questions. We can talk about making your endurance training more effective, fun, and simple with a capital S. Thanks, and I'll see you out on the road.